Chapter 8, Estimate. In this Scrum Master seminar, we have been speaking about points of effort or complexity as if they mean something, as if they are important. We have been using them to predict our trend for when we will finish projects, and even recommending incentivizing Scrum Masters to receive bonuses and be measured by how many points are completed per sprint, called velocity, and increasing that over time, called acceleration. This all works if our estimation in points is accurate. Let's make that not one great big run-on sentence. Joe Justice, that's me, conducted a global study of more than 3,500 business professionals. This original research was conducted 71 times to establish statistical significance. The studies were repeated in Europe, Asia, North America, South America, and Australia. The test group included partners and analysts from top consulting firms to see if their estimation abilities would be an outlier. Would they be any better or worse or the same as everyone else? Short, they were the same as everyone else. In fact, students, even down to below teenagers, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, their estimates were also similar quality. We'll get there in terms of level of accuracy. We included Fortune 50 companies and new startups. All of the 10 highest value companies in Japan were included, with dozens of office staff and members of the leadership team from each. They also weren't any more accurate at estimation. The study included the United States and Australian Special Forces. The regular Army also participated, as did the Air Force, and government officials from the United States, Australia, and Japan, and more. We found statistically identical results from all parties. Estimation quality was similar for all groups. More intriguing, in our analysis of this research, 4 factors have, in this order, the most statistically significant impact on the accuracy of estimates. So if you can do any of these 4 things, this is what is measured to increase the accuracy of estimates. 1, ask the people doing the work to provide the estimates, not the people who want the work done. Many of the organizations we work with have separate project estimators who do not then complete the backlog to deliver the work. If allowed in your company, we recommend 100% of the estimates be produced by the people actually completing the backlog of work. We will practice this in this chapter. 2, display facts, ideally visually, with as little opinion as possible. The more opinion is displayed, the more estimates are influenced by psychological anchoring. Anchoring in estimation occurs when facts are shared and prior to estimates being shared, someone says, this should only take 2 weeks, or this is huge. In both cases, the statistical accuracy of the subsequent estimates is reduced. The estimates have been anchored by the opinions of difficulty, size, time, or effort. This has to do with what's called the halo effect bias. A high-paid person or an experienced person says this is really difficult or this is really easy. Or charismatic bias, someone who's very handsome says, I can get this done in a day. That anchors the estimate. Anchoring in estimation always reduces the accuracy of the estimates. 3, after fact sharing, the faster the estimation and the less talking, the more accurate the estimates. The more teams talk and the more time is taken after the facts are shared, the more the halo effect bias, also called charismatic bias, reduces the accuracy of the team's estimates. Whomever has the most charisma influences all estimates. To increase estimation accuracy and counter these biases, all estimates are hidden and showed simultaneously. A Scrum Master will not allow estimation to continue more than 3 rounds or lengthy conversation to take place. Technical approach and understanding the facts is absolutely required for shared understanding of what is to be estimated. However, for estimation accuracy, this happens before any estimates are given, during step 2, with as little opinion as possible. The result is a simultaneous method of revealing the estimates by all the people doing the work. That can be done anonymously or non-anonymously, depending on the team's comfort level. Both work fine. The approach is often referred to in agile organizations as planning poker. However, this aspect alone is not enough to ensure the maximum likelihood estimate. All 4 of these top estimation practices are required to gather the maximum likelihood estimate. Agile instructors, maybe 10 years ago and more, used to teach planning poker, where people would hide their estimates and show them. Then they would discuss until the team all agreed. Well, that was full of anchoring, full of charismatic bias, halo effect bias, recency bias, and other anchoring effects. Now, what's been measured is to still hide your estimates and show them simultaneously, called planning poker, but after the team has negotiated approach, architecture, tool use, and they have a general understanding of how they'll complete the work, a rough idea of the technical aspects they're going to take on. Then they estimate, and there's no conversation afterwards. Not, why did you vote that? It actually decreases the accuracy of the estimate to have conversation after the votes are shown. Simply take the average. Step 4, estimating uncertainty, effort, or complexity is 340% more accurate than estimating time. Those specific numbers come from research from Microsoft in Redmond, Washington, United States. Humans appear to have a natural capability to understand if something is larger or smaller. You are invited to try this simplified experiment yourself. A human looks at 2 tall buildings equal distance away on the horizon and estimates how many stories tall each building might be, and records this estimate. The recorded estimate will have very low correlation with the actual numbers of stories if that number is later revealed. However, if a human is told one of the buildings is 34 stories tall, humans are near 100% correct, at the number of stories of the other building to the nearest Fibonacci number. The Fibonacci number sequence is 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 144, 233, and so on, where each number is the sum of the previous 2 numbers. It is possible to also extend the sequence into negative numbers. However, for our estimation methods, that is not necessary. The Fibonacci sequence exists frequently in nature, from the spiral arms of galaxies, the progressions of a musical scale, the volume difference in clothing sizes, the petals of every flower and structure of every plant, including seeds and cones, unless they've been damaged. While the exact reason that human estimation accuracy is also bounded, statistically, to the nearest Fibonacci number is not known. The authors theorize it is because this sequence and the spirals it creates are abundant in nature and have been for human history, and possibly because humans are a product of a living world shaped by this mathematical phenomenon. This simplified experiment demonstrates that humans have very low accuracy with very low correlation with reality when estimating exact values such as height or time. And the same is unfortunately true for time estimates such as days, hours, ideal hours, person hours, mythical man months, and so on. Humans are nearly 100% accurate at comparing multiple things, at least to the nearest Fibonacci number. We can use this quirk of humanity to obtain estimates in time, such as when will the project be completed, which, as a Scrum Master, is the ultimate estimation question we wish to address. Let's try it together. Here is a list of complicated projects that were not completed on time, none of them. Imagine your team won the bid, the contract, to design, build, test, and launch each of these. How would you answer the reasonable question of when will you be done? In some of these cases, the top project planners locked themselves in offices for years, developing some of these project estimates, and they were all wrong. Let us use a more accurate estimation method. Statistically, what makes the maximum likelihood estimate? 1, ask the people doing the work, not the people who want the work done. 2, display facts, ideally visually, to everyone estimating simultaneously. Now, advanced, when you're sharing facts, try to put them in a physical location. If it's a virtual board, try to have a big virtual board where people can point. There's a spatial memory phenomenon where humans think the information is somewhere up here. And agile methods take great advantage of this. There's a lot of visible, tactile information. Do that for estimates. If you're doing it virtually, have a great big virtual whiteboard where people can remember it's near the top right or it's near the middle. That will improve their estimation accuracy because they're now using spatial locations as well to incorporate the facts as they're making these estimates. Okay, that's additional information on step 2. Step 3, after the fact sharing, the faster the estimation and the less talking, the more accurate the estimate. Step 4, estimating effort or complexity is 340% more accurate than estimating time. Again, Microsoft data. We have excellent data from neuroscientists about the reduction in mental capacity when stress hormones are circulating in our bodies. In addition, cognitive function is increased when serotonin and oxytocin are circulating in our physiological system, creating a sense of safety, security, comfort, and well-being. Now, if we have hyper elevated serotonin and oxytocin, we can actually feel drunk, and that impairs us again. So as you've heard earlier in the book, the goal is a slight smile, not laughing hysterically. That's the optimum state for estimation, as well as it appears all cognitive work and physical work as well. An aside, grunting, pushing, becoming like angry actually has a physical benefit. There's additional power and physical numbing unlocked. So if you actually have to cram a round log through a square opening, furrowing your brow and grunting and getting angry actually has an advantage. But for cognitive work, elegantly reshaping that log to be square so it slides smoothly, low effort through the square opening, that you'd like a slight smile. Google tracks this in their data-driven and ultra-high performance culture. The #1 feature associated with top performing teams was a sense of psychological safety. To preserve our ability to estimate, the Scrum Master is taught to speak calmly and clearly in our Scrum Master seminar, and to make estimation as fun and even playful as possible without creating competition or stress. In our Scrum Master course, we will substitute the actual projects to estimate with Lego toys in order to create a playful, good feeling in some or even all of the participants. I actually use this tactic when I'm estimating in real companies, when I'm a board of advisors member, or I'm coaching or leading an agile transformation or participating in an agile transformation. I'll try to find toys that are similar or a proxy or remind people of the real projects to be done. And I'll ask them to estimate the toys. Interestingly, there's a high correlation between the toys estimate and the actual project estimate. And I'll show you that trick here. We'll actually use it here. So we're substituting these actual rockets with Lego models of those actual rockets. As you can see in the image above, we provide a large and small reference project. Which projects specifically we select is arbitrary. What is statistically important is that we select 2 references near the large and small end of the spectrum in terms of effort or complexity. We ask the participants to not think about time. The actual phenomenon here is an abstraction performed subconsciously by the human brain, where the brain simulates performing the work of each project and is left with a highly accurate abstract impression of effort or complexity. Some participants describe this as a feeling of weight, light to heavy, or a gray mound of something like gravel that they see in their mind. a large mound or a small mound, or extra large or extra small, as we will see soon. We now place numbers from the Fibonacci sequence on each project. If the question we are asking is, when will the entire project be done? It is far more accurate to estimate the entire project to the extent we guess the contents of completing the entire project at the time of estimation. If we estimate the individual tasks or detailed work inside a project, we are highly likely to uncover more work as we make progress, and the estimate grows, making our initial estimate too inaccurate for business commitments. However, if we estimate the entire project at a time, comparing it to entire reference projects, our estimates are highly accurate. For example, when I was working in Tesla, the Model 3 and Y were introduced. We're working on the Cybertruck and the Semi. We could say, introducing the Cybertruck, is that more difficult or less difficult than introducing the Model Y? Is it more difficult or less difficult than introducing the Model 3? Is it more difficult or less difficult than introducing the Model X? Is it more difficult or less difficult than introducing the Model S? Is it more difficult or less difficult than adding a heat pump to the Model 3? Every significant project that's been completed is a candidate for a reference project, extra small to extra large, to XX extra large if needed. This creates a highly accurate estimation as the company completes projects. If the company's brand new and hasn't completed any projects, they guess some examples from industry. This similar project already existing may be created by a competitor or some of the founders of the company when they worked at another company. Let's call that a medium. Is this new thing we're trying to build large, small, or also maybe medium? And then the company measures how long it takes them to complete, done, including testing, a medium or a small or a large. And they try to improve that speed over time by automating and reducing bottlenecks, which we'll go through next. An additional point, remember that the estimate is far more accurate if it is produced by the professionals who are actually doing the work. If the same workforce, or a majority of the same workforce that is estimating now, also worked on the projects that are being used as a reference, the accuracy of the estimate is far higher still. For new teams and new organizations of many teams, this may not be practical. But as projects are completed, this option becomes available and future accuracy of estimation can further increase. And now for the estimation. Everyone on every team is asked to write down their first and initial guess of what Fibonacci number they believe best represents the level of effort or complexity of the work to build toy A and toy B. Given the small reference toy is 34 points of effort or complexity, and the large reference toy is 144 points of effort or complexity. When all the estimates are prepared in each team, with as little discussion and time as practical, each estimator hands their written estimate to the person currently playing the Scrum Master role in each team. Remember, team members have full self-authority or decision-making rights to rotate who is playing the 3 Scrum roles in their team, or even trade players across teams at any time. The Scrum Master takes the mathematical average of the estimate provided by their team. For statistical accuracy, the team members each select a Fibonacci number, and the mathematical average for each team is preserved to the nearest full number and may or may not be a Fibonacci number. So if everyone on the team estimates 3, 3, 3, 13, the average, what is that, like 9? Sorry, the actual average is given, even though the actual average is not a Fibonacci number. Humans estimate to the nearest Fibonacci number. Then we take the average of the estimators, and that average is the maximum likelihood estimate. These estimates are then written on the group Scrum board or group Agile board. Update that now. An average for all teams conducting work on the project. This is the maximum likelihood estimate for the project as it is known today. The estimation method, an inherited and matured technique of Delphi estimation as defined by the Rand Corporation in 1967, is referred to by its identifier and principal researcher as justice estimation. As this is a master class, to be clear, the RAND Corporation was not yet aware of the accuracy increase obtained by estimating the entire project at a time, as opposed to its individual steps, and conducting estimation using reference projects approximately bounding the small and large ends of the project. And also the estimation conducted using only one round of estimates and averaged was subsequently computed to be higher accuracy than repeated rounds of averaging estimation. This book includes most, if not all, of the repeatable tactics identified by Joe Justice, Team Wikispeed, the Agile Business Institute, and their colleagues. And as such, you will see several techniques using names from these professionals and groups. Now that we've obtained the statistically meaningful maximum likelihood estimate in abstract points for our projects, what we want to know is time. That is coming in the next chapter. Well, okay, you know, project A is 13 points and project B is 54 points. Then you measure how many points you complete in a given amount of time and actually complete. If a team completes 13 points of project planning, that doesn't mean it's done. Defects might be found during testing or building or supplier delay. But if we estimate a full slice of the project that goes through an entire waterfall, planning, analysis, building, testing, deployment, certification, if we estimate all of that, like introducing the Model 3, all of it, designing the Model 3, the manufacturing layout of the Model 3, supplier ramp, commercialization, certification, on sale, customer delivery, and compare that to the Cybertruck. That includes all regressions, all supplier delays, all redesign on the line, which never ends, by the way. It's agile and is highly accurate. So these references and the work we're estimating shouldn't be phases or skills-based slices that a Sloan silo would build. These are complete projects. These are big projects then as a result, like introducing the Model 3. Now that we've obtained a statistically meaningful maximum likelihood estimate in abstract points for our projects, what we want to know is time. That is coming in the next chapter. Before we deduce time, it is very useful to ask ourselves a probing question. If our organization finishes 2 large projects per year, the last 3 years on average, that will equate to 288 points of effort or complexity per year. If our organization can complete 288 points of effort or complexity or 2 large projects per year, how many small or extra small projects can we complete instead? If we introduce an extra small size and call it 13 as a reference, we can complete 22 in a year instead of 2 large projects. Our organization is statistically likely to complete 22 extra small projects in the same year if we did not work on the 2 large projects. This is where our Scrum Master is able to transform the planning functions, budgeting practices, and customer contracting in a very important, repeatable, high-value way. Please be advised, the professionals currently working in the planning functions, budgeting functions, and account management and contracting functions are likely stressed with project estimates that are only correct 3% of the time, Standish Group data on project late and over budget percentage. The stressed mind under the effects of cortisol and other stress hormones is statistically unlikely to welcome additional change and is more likely to be driven by the lizard brain, the limbic cortex, which causes most animals, including we humans, to push harder with our existing methods. That means for our Scrum Masters, we must approach these people with a tremendous amount of soothing, support, relaxation, good-naturedness, and gentle presentation. So folks in traditional planning functions are usually stressed out because plans are usually wrong. According to Standish Group's data, they're on time, on budget 3% of the time for large waterfall projects. So if we're, as a Scrum Master, aware of a more accurate estimation method, if we just walk in and say, I want to change your work, use this new estimation method I found, even if we're correct, these people are likely stressed and want to push that information away. So in a very soothing, comfortable way, we attempt to create a safe space, attempt to create a sense of time, and introduce this information. So we might have to do it through traditional management functions if the company has those, to create an offsite if we have to, where these people feel more relaxed and are told by their bosses, you have time, you can think about this, you can explore this, you can give your feedback on this, you can see if you want to buy into agile estimation. Whereas if you drop it on their desk when they already feel their estimates are wrong and they're under pressure and they don't have enough time already, which is often true for planners in most companies, it will be pushed away. It'll be met with resistance. You'll be perceived as an enemy. This is part of the psychology of organizational change. Now, if you're in a flat agile company already, but you want to improve the agile estimation, chances are these people are in a more relaxed mode because they're not working only on estimation. They're working cross-functionally and they're getting regular positive feedback and serotonin and oxytocin boosts from completing work, as agile companies do, working on small projects at a time, cross-functionally with a group of people with different expertise. Then it's much easier to upgrade maybe some outmoded estimation methods with what's presented here in the book, justice estimation. The concept that an order of magnitude more extra small projects is likely to be completed by our organization than 2 large projects is immediately powerful to some organizations, but the data is even more compelling. Here is Standish Group's data. It's free up until 2017. You can pay to access their more recent data. So here, a large waterfall project is on time, on budget, 3% of the time. That's what successful is meant to be here, on time, on budget. And large is approximately 3 months or more. Medium is 2 months or more. Small is 1 month or smaller, approximately. So if you can cut a waterfall project, even, with one release and phases and handing off work across groups to something less than a month, you're still likely you're almost half likely to be on time, on budget, even with waterfall, 44% on time, on budget. But if you can then work cross-functionally and not have handoffs with one team from planning through certification to delivery, and with customer previews throughout, you have the highest likelihood of being on time, on budget of all, 58% on time, on budget. Only 4% are complete and total failures, all money spent, nothing ever delivered. There are still 38% late or over budget projects, but it's the highest category according to Standish Group's data, and that's been being measured since 1985. The Standish Group data set collected since 1985 further breaks down project success percentage as reported by global companies. Project success was defined to be the project delivery on time, on budget. The Standish Group observes that organizations which reported their project was small, less than a month long, had a 33% higher success rate for non-agile agile managed projects, here called waterfall. And small projects with agile management, as self-reported by the studied global companies, had, by a large margin, the highest likelihood of success. 58% of small agile projects shipped on time, on budget, even with Scrum teams welcoming changing requirements, even late in development, and valuing customer collaboration over contract negotiation. So changing scope as they build. Compare this to 3% of a large non-agile projects being on time, on budget, with 55% challenge, late or over budget, and 42% being a complete and total failure, with all money spent and no used result, 100% scrap and waste. If you're on a waterfall project that is large, more than 3 months planned duration, the statistical likelihood of a financial success is 3%. Is bad, it's dark. This is the business case for risk reduction for agile projects, agile teams, agile companies. We as Scrum Masters now have a powerful guiding principle for all of executive, program, and project management. Whenever practical, split large projects into 11 extra small projects and execute them to done using agile project management. That means every single member managing, selling, planning, executing, and testing the work knows this estimation method. Wow, that sentence, this whole chapter needs a rewrite. Please, editors, help me make this comfortable and easy to read for a high school student, fun to read for a high school student. Like I said, equates above, that should just be equals. There's no need for me to write that way. That also means each team member is able to serve as Scrum Master, able to rotate through the high value Scrum Master role, and all of those managing project finances further trained as product owners. Those participating in organizational design are further trained in Group Scrum. Group Agile seems to have better market understanding. And we now have a complex adaptive organization with statistically accurate estimates and lowest percentage of project risk. We hope you like winning, because there's about to be a lot more winning for your organization. Really, the takeaway from this chapter is there's a very highly accurate form of estimation, estimating the entire project at a time, called justice estimation. And there are 4 steps, if you can do them, that will increase its accuracy. That's one. 2 is, if you can cut your project into many small projects that are each less than a month, your success rate goes way up, your risk goes way down. Then I'll add here what Bill Gates taught me when I was a Scrum Master for Bill Gates, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And that was to cut these big projects into many small projects, each less than a month, and run them in parallel, run them all at the same time, each with their own Agile team. Bill is not an Agilist, or that wasn't my impression of Bill Gates. Bill is extremely focused on object-oriented architecture, which is this idea of parallel concurrent execution. Bill is that type of programmer, and it works great. By some measures, in some years, Bill Gates has been the wealthiest person on planet Earth. It works. So Scrum Masters, this is your strategy, if you can, is take big projects and cut them into parallel executable complete projects, complete waterfalls with their own planning, analysis, building, testing, and deployment, and execute them in parallel. That parallel execution ensures that they're actually complete waterfalls. A good Scrum project includes all waterfall phases. You just run them with one team from start to finish. Split large projects into independent small projects. Object-oriented architecture is an agile risk reduction strategy. Optimum project size increases as team technical excellence and automation improve. Instead of hierarchy, module teams work in parallel in a flat structure, reporting at the interface instead of up. And this is exactly what the fastest of these complex project companies do. These companies split extra large projects into extra small projects that are able to be executed concurrently at the same time. Concurrent execution means these projects are independent. Project independence is achieved by object-oriented architecture. Really, that's like saying the same thing twice. Object-oriented architecture means they're independent. There's more to object-oriented architecture. Please read James Copleen if you want to go really deep into object-oriented architecture. But at a minimum, please think object-oriented architecture means you can build this piece, test this piece, deploy this piece all on its own. It's completely independent. It doesn't have to wait on anyone outside that team, or if you're computing it, that compute function. A further caveat on estimation accuracy. Remember, we recommend not to estimate the component work of the project, as it tends to grow as the project is executed, the steps to complete the project. The growth ratio is random and difficult to predict with accuracy. We also recommend extra small projects, which does make estimation have less variance and further increases our estimation accuracy. We should be even more clear here. An extra small project, or any project by our definition, must include planning, analysis, building, testing, and deployment, and certification if that's required, to have relevant estimation. If we define a project as only planning and estimate that as an extra small project, and the next extra small project is defined as analysis, and the next extra small project is defined as build, And the next extra small project is test. And the last extra small project is deploy. We could fool ourselves into believing we have approximately 65 points in total in this collection of extra small projects. If our organization is trending to deliver 288 points for the year, which implies 24 points in an average month, we may incorrectly recommend to our customers that we are on trend to deliver this entire project in less than 3 months. But what happens if we find defects in our plan and design during testing? We have a regression, a do-over. We have to go back and replan. Planning our first extra small project was never done as it was not yet tested. And we cannot predict statistically how many regressions we are likely to experience before finally meeting the release definition of done and being able to meet our customer commitment. Instead, if the project is split into modules, each including planning and design, analysis, build, test, and deployment, we can estimate that appropriately, likely a medium project. We are extremely likely to have an accurate trend of when we will complete the project. In this way, we authors strongly recommend Eric Ries's landmark book, The Lean Startup: How Today's Entrepreneurs Use Continuous Innovation to Create Radically Successful Businesses. If we are interested in predictive accuracy via project estimates, every single project should meet the lean startup definition of being able to be tested and solicit feedback at a minimum. We view each sprint as a lean startup. Business agility. An organization has completed 2 extra small projects out of a promised set of 8 extra small projects, each including testing and deployment. We're able to switch the remaining 6 projects for any other work of similar effort or complexity, as estimated by the people doing the work. This gives us a very low cost to change, even late in development. This is business agility. So at Tesla, you have teams increasing the heat dissipation and energy that can flow into the charge port. That's their current work, for example. Then a chip shortage happens, and those same teams work to implement a new chip that doesn't require, that does require new firmware. So they start practicing writing basic firmware updates. And that new chip doesn't have as many pin-ins and pin-outs, so they're no longer able to have lumbar adjustment, the firmness of the lower part of the seat. So they remove that as a feature, and the website groups update the website to say lumbar adjust is no longer a feature of the Model 3 and Model Y. Those teams can switch. They weren't planning to update the car to handle different chips during the chip shortage, which is now as I'm recording this. Before, they were working on a totally different part of the car. That's business agility. These teams can flip anytime. That wasn't part of a budget plan made earlier in the year. It's simply these teams are paid to run for a year at a time. And what these teams do is based on what's maximum value for the business, which is displayed on these big boards of product backlog to execute in order. And it changes all the time based on market conditions and what's available, what's possible. That's business agility. Quick estimation by affinity. A note on alternative affinity estimation. In affinity estimation, the people doing the work are invited to move cards virtually on a shared screen or in person on a large wall. Each card representing projects on a scale from extra small to extra large, with reference projects fixed near the small and large points. The useful rules here are to have only 1 card per project. Anyone can move it and no talking is allowed. Timidly, the first few project cards are placed on the scale. That usually happens just after facts have been shared with as little opinion as possible. And the general approach of each project has been voted on and passed by a majority of the people responsible for doing the work. For example, they might choose, if it's software, are we going to use Java or JavaScript? What patterns are we going to use? A new architecture or build on a legacy architecture? They'll make those general calls. Same for hardware. Are we going to use the same chassis or make a new chassis? Are we going to use the vendor to provide suspension? Or are we going to build our own? So we have these general approach negotiations and they vote. Well, now you have a shared understanding dictated by majority and it's allowed to change later. It's the best we knew at the time. Then 1 card is taken and moved from left to right, extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. Soon, those without strong conviction or stance start to stand back, and just a few deeply passionate professionals move a few cards back and forth. Eventually, as there is no talking, everyone gives up except one person, and the project cards stop moving. The downside of this technique is that bullying, charismatic bias, attention-seeking, stubbornness, and passive aggression are all rewarded. The reason to use this technique occasionally is not to obtain an accurate estimate, but to make two failure modes visible so that they may be incrementally remedied during a following retrospective and a regimen of repeated Kaizen process improvements. Yeah, I don't need to say regimen here. This should be fun and easy to read by, well, I mean, ideally even a middle school student, but at least a high school student. Maybe even not a first language speaker. So regimen is not a necessary word here. I should really simplify. If the professionals doing the work and estimating are deadlocked with widely different estimates, it makes visible we either have a broken incentive model where we reward and promote those who had their estimates picked by uninvolved management that is too distant from the work to make relevant project-informed management decisions, or we don't yet know enough about the project to have a reasonably accurate estimate. In the first case, where we are experiencing a broken incentive model, we will remedy this as a trained Scrum Master by conducting a retrospective on the incentive model with the persons currently empowered to reauthor the actual in effect incentive model. In the second case, where not enough information is known to provide accurate estimates, those trained as Scrum Masters will suggest adding a card to one or more of the team backlogs to conduct a sprint or less of work on the project and show the results to all teams at the end of the sprint during the group Scrum sprint review, group Agile sprint review. The knowledge gained by starting the work has a much higher impact on increasing subsequent estimation accuracy than discussion, which will trigger charismatic and halo effect biases. Now, let us make some customer-facing and internal budgetable plans with the results of our justice estimation. Let's do financial planning. And that'll take us to chapter 9.